So let me get this straight. We're heading into an election, whether that's in a few weeks, a few months, or a year from pretty much to date, right? It's going to be around 1 year from now. And so far, we've got the majority of Canadians that are either against Trudeau politically or even liberal supporters hate Justin Trudeau. Even Trudeau's own cabinet hates Justin Trudeau. Other countries hate Justin Trudeau, such as India. And then you have massive, super, ultra popular American, personalities or people like Elon Musk, Jordan Peterson, and Joe Rogan hate Justin Trudeau. Justin, if you're watching this or anyone from your team, I don't think it's looking too good for you, politically speaking. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. We got a couple different things to take a look at. We have the previous leader of the NDP, Tom Mulcair, has said several times that he agrees, in a weird and very rare instance, he agrees with Pierre Poilievre to not get the security clearance to be able to have access to the names of these 11 traders. The reason being is it would silence him. It would completely muzzle him, which is the opposite stance from the Green Party leader, the Bloc Québécois leader, the current NDP leader, and Justin Trudeau, and pretty much most of the mainstream media here in Canada. I personally don't see the benefit to Pierre Poilievre getting the security clearance. As someone who worked in the federal government, who worked in the military, I just don't see how it's going to cause or be good for the Conservatives at all. He won't be able to talk about it. He won't even be able to speculate. He won't even be able to sling mud at Justin Trudeau because he'll have breached already that contract of not knowing to knowing, and then we won't be able to hear anything from what he has to say. And if it really was super impactful, like they are trying to muster up, they as in Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet, and the media, then you would have arrests. Like, you can't just literally commit treason and get away with it, or can you? I don't know. It's all very, very confusing. But we got a couple different things to look at. So we got what Tom Mulcair has to say about the situation. Then we have India is like literally trolling Justin Trudeau at a very high level. Then you have Joe Rogan, who chimes in about how much Canada has gone downhill. And then we have what to look forward to, I guess, in the coming days with the 4 Liberal MPs that have just announced in the past 24 hours that they are jumping ship. So buckle up, and I hope you stick around for the full thing. So here we go with the Tom Mulcair video.
They were anything but spontaneous, and it was a planned hit on Poilievre to distract. Over the weekend, the long weekend, we learned that there was a big tussle still going on with India over foreign interference. Well, lo and behold, on Thanksgiving Monday press conference with the RCMP and with Mr. Trudeau, when he got questions about his leadership, he said, well, we're not going to talk about petty internal politics. This is big stuff for Canadians. So he's been trying to distract from his own problems. I'm not saying, by the way, and I'm not even suggesting that the RCMP did this to help Trudeau, nor that the accusations against India aren't serious. They are. But the timing of this is something that was clearly controllable and controlled to help Mr. Trudeau. Same thing with yesterday's announcement. What he did in that hearing is he tried to used a bombshell. I'd use a more high school term of a stink bomb that he tried to throw at the leader of the official opposition. You know, Marcia, I know you're aware.
When I say this, when you say this, when anyone else we know says this, the Liberal government, the media, Justin Trudeau would call this conspiracy theory. In fact, he would say this is where he's referring to when he says that Pierre Poilievre watches late at night right-wing, ultra-right-wing conspiracy-style videos on YouTube. He's referring to talking points that we just heard from the previous leader of the NDP, the old version of Jagmeet Singh. I cannot believe that I'm hearing this from Tom Mulcair. Maybe he's woken up to the shit show. Maybe he's now realizing that, hey, Justin Trudeau is not who he makes himself out to be, and the whole system is really heading towards a downward trajectory. It's not good at all. But I absolutely agree with those opening statements that this was controllable. I don't want to say it was an act of terrorism for Justin Trudeau to release this news as an emergency broadcast on Thanksgiving evening, a national holiday here in Canada. He knew everybody was going to be at home with their families eating, or at least the majority of people, and he chose that time to, basically break headlines. Like, it was just so weird. It was not, it could have waited 24 hours. And then the testimony and everything testifying that's happening. It's just the timing of it, man, it's so freaking weird.
Aware of this. I used to be the leader of then Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition, and the main job of the leader of the opposition is to hold the government to account. I agree completely with Poilievre's decision not to take the bait. Trudeau's been trying for a year and a half to restrain what Pierre Poilievre can do by trying to say, come and get this private briefing, and oh, by the way, then you'll be held to an official secret, and you won't be able to talk about this anymore. Trudeau doesn't want to talk about the fact that there were known cases, and they're coming out clearly, where the Liberals sat on information, refused to issue warrants and the like with regard to Liberals. So they're trying to distract and say, oh, look at this guy Poilievre. He doesn't even want to know the names of the people. And look at all the conditional wording that Trudeau uses. It's to go back to the 50s in the United States, it's McCarthyism. It's the enemy within. We've got these people and they don't even want to know about it. This is simply not worthy of Canadian politics. I've never seen anything so low. And last night I was on a French panel show that I do on Wednesdays. It's a 1-hour show. And we had as our first guest for about 15 minutes, Mélanie Joly, completely over the top rhetoric, a total hit job on Pierre Poilievre. It couldn't become clearer than it did at that moment that this was all about the Liberals trying to focus and attack Pierre Poilievre to avoid having to answer, one, what they have not done on foreign interference, and two, Trudeau's leadership problems. We learned today, for example, that there are a lot of MPs who are about to come out and ask outright for Trudeau to step down. So these are all attempts to distract and get away from the issues at hand. And I think that Canadians are a lot smarter than that. They look at Poilievre and they realize this guy was doing his job, and this type of hit is unseemly, frankly.
So Poilievre...
Kind of crazy, because Trudeau's testimony, he self-incriminated himself. Like, I don't know how else to put it. He quite literally admitted that the Liberal government is guilty of treason. Like, it's insane what's going on. And then to make things worse, Trudeau picked a fight with the largest democracy in the world, India, and the Indian media is, they've been super busy. You've got your regular podcasters, your commentators, your YouTubers, your influencers, the mainstream media in India. Everybody is directing all of the reciprocal anger that Justin Trudeau just threw at them 10 times more. Let's take a quick look here at this video. Even just the amount of stuff they got going on the screens, that's like 5 times as much stuff as what Canadian media has. That's a lot of flashy things on their screens.
No, based on my year-old sarcastic tweets, I have been charged by the Canadian government agency with interfering in Canada's internal affairs and politics. And what are those 2 tweets, by the way? The first one says that Osama bin Laden was a Canadian citizen. If he was, he'd be very much alive and staying in Ottawa off Sussex Street, where Trudeau stays, with his 5 wives and 20 kids. And the second tweet was a comment on Trudeau's father, who refused to extradite Kanishka's terrorists, as you know. And I remarked on Justin Trudeau that an apple never falls far from the tree. I do admit I might not have been factually correct there, because if Justin Trudeau is an apple, then the tree is quite possibly not Canadian but Cuban.
Cuban. There you go.
I speak as
oh my God.
So my words are not restricted or cushioned by diplomacy or tact. First, there is no credible evidence that India killed Niger and other terrorists abroad. But second, even if it did, these thick as custard semi-literates don't even realize that if they claim that through scheme and stealth, Modi has systematically wiped out 20 designated terrorists on foreign soil, far from being outraged, 1 billion Indians would be ecstatic. Did any sensible American disapprove President Obama killing Osama on foreign soil? Which Indian wouldn't want his country safer through his leader taking steps to eliminate his enemies? Every powerful nation runs covert ops. It is not only sensible, it is vital. And this Niger is the same guy who was put on a no-fly list, not by India, but by the West. He was bombing and assassinating innocents, formulating kill lists of Indian diplomats, wanted the breakup of India. And this Trudeau is the same guy who congratulated America for killing al-Zawahiri, if you remember. He said, quote, Killing of Zawahiri is a step towards a safer world. Canada will keep working with our global partners to counter terrorist threats, unquote. But when it comes to someone that India designates as a terrorist, wants him extradited from Canada, someone who was wearing a terror outfit, suddenly Trudeau enters into an apoplectic fit. Why was Trudeau quiet when ISI recently killed a famous Baluch activist? Honestly, the only thing lower than Trudeau's credibility is his intelligence. He has single-handedly, Rahul, ruined Canada's relations with India, possibly for years, if not for decades. And for what? For piddly little gains in his Canadian electoral politics? Remember, Trudeau is the same guy who is doing nothing to stop the funding of secessionist groups in Canada who want to foment trouble in India. The attack on our temples, our embassies, the making of kill lists, the grisly tableau showing Khalistan is gunning down our ex-prime minister. And what does Trudeau do? Absolutely nothing. And now he's jumping like a cat on a hot tin roof. You know the reason?
What the heck are we listening to? Like, this is on India News, News 18, man. This is insane. I have never heard such a fast Ben Shapiro style of talking roast directed towards Justin Trudeau that all are absolutely true. My favorite part was the comment about if Osama bin Laden was Canadian, he would be living in Ottawa with his 20 wives. I don't know if he said on a government pension or something like that, but probably. That's insane. And like, I mean, can I even congratulate them, or is that me congratulating foreign interference? I don't know. I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, but I'd love to know what you guys have to say about this down in the comments. This is what happens when Justin Trudeau starts clapping at India. India does not mess around. They've got a lot more people, a lot more resources, a lot more media. And so the freaking roast, the sheer amount of content that is directed specifically at Justin Trudeau, I don't know how Justin Trudeau opens his phone and doesn't just go, "What have I done?" But again, I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments about that. And now we're going to take a look at what, Joe Rogan has to say about Canada, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
and we're like, Canada is the best.
The best.
I love it up there.
Yeah.
I love the people. They're friendly and hardworking.
Great
and
place
they're
to go.
peaceful.
Smart.
And they're smart. And they're educated.
Yeah.
And it was always fun. I loved it up there. I just love the attitude of the place. I've met so many cool people in Canada. But now, the way Trudeau is running it, it scares the shit out of me. I'm like, you guys are sliding into communism. You're sliding every day. They push a little bit further, a little bit further.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't get rid of that guy, if you don't turn that thing around, you're fucked.
I mean, Joe Rogan's a pretty common sense dude, and I just feel like if he's afraid of Canada, if he thinks that Canada is slipping politically to the point where it's not even worth for him, other Americans, to come and visit Canada because of how insane the laws have come, I mean, I think that holds a lot of weight, and that speaks volume. And I don't like where this country is headed politically speaking. He's turning people on each other. He's making people not want to live here. He's making people not want to visit here. And he's literally a walking meme machine. I mean, for crying out loud, I don't mind per se India making this much content about Justin Trudeau because it's funny in the moment, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a good look geopolitically speaking. Like, Canada is a laughingstock. Canada never was this big of a laughingstock. We've been, well known as peacekeepers. We've been well known as never having lost a war. Like, Canada has, it doesn't have a big superpower military like America, but I mean, we've been pretty good in terms of our relations with other countries. And all of this is really heading on a downward spiral with Justin Trudeau, but more and more recently over the past 12 to 18 months. But I'd love to know what you guys have to say about that Joe Rogan soliloquy. Next, we're going to take a look at if Trudeau can even politically survive what's about to come his way. So we've got a whole lot of bad press. We have India relations absolutely horrible. You've got lowest support ever in the history of any sitting prime minister running for a re-election. And then you also have a whole bunch of Liberal MPs that not only want him to quit, but that are quitting themselves. So let's take a look at this panel here on CTV to see what the professionals have to say.
I
Hi, everybody.
Ashley.
Brian, I'll start with you. Do you think there's any way the Prime Minister can spin this as not another hit to his leadership, or is this, in your view, a hit to his leadership?
It's definitely a hit in the sense that it's repeating a story that's incredibly not helpful for the Liberals at this moment. It's also sort of aggravating it. There's no question about that as well. It seems like so far the ministers have certainly toed the line and said that they're still supportive of the Prime Minister, even if they are resigning. So that's helpful. But look at us right now and look at the next few days. People are going to talk about the potential of the caucus meeting going awry next week. Now, the interesting part, one little opportunity perhaps for Trudeau and his team is to actually delay a cabinet shuffle for a while. It may be a way in which you have a calmer caucus meeting on Wednesday, because maybe there's some that, maybe all, or maybe at least a handful, and maybe the more important ones are thinking to themselves, well, I'm not going to go to the mic. I'm not going to be as aggressive as I was planning, because you never know. Maybe I am about to be named a cabinet. So in a way, it could be some little bit of a blessing in disguise. Now, that said, I want to be very clear. The minute that they do the shuffle, everybody that maybe was a little calmer because of that possibility, and they see they're not asked to be in cabinet, well, that dissipates, and they're probably just as upset, maybe even more upset.
Marika, you're having a lot of conversations, as I am, with people who are hoping to convey that message to the Prime Minister. Is it your impression that at this point the possibility of getting into cabinet will dissuade them? My impression is that it would not, only because they feel like they're going to lose their seats.
Yeah, I think certainly I heard from some Liberals today saying, oh, we're being managed. Like, this is coming out just before this caucus meeting to dangle this carrot. I'm not sure if it was a sanctioned leak. Louis Blouin is a very good reporter who had it first. So who knows?
It's definitely coordinated.
Way,
they did it all at once, though.
Exactly.
Minister Tassi essentially said that very blatantly.
Yeah.
She got a call last night. It's okay to release your statement today. Yeah.
Yeah, either way, it ended up being coordinated, and there is that very short-term payoff that Brian talks about. But as we saw with the shuffle last summer, there's a lot of anger that came from the people who weren't. So I'm not sure it will be the long-term payoff the Prime Minister's hoping for. I think this is just another thing to manage and figure out, and it's the third shuffle in 4 months. So there's not a sense of sort of an overarching strategy or coordination within the PMO of dealing with everything at once and then moving on.
Yeah,
and the first time out of all of these shuffles, right? Third shuffle in 4 months, and then you have last year's shuffle and the year prior shuffle. For the first time out of all of these instances, you actually have a substantial amount of, albeit backbench Liberal MPs, but I mean, Anthony Housefather, he's like a middle bench type of guy. They are all pretty much revolting against Justin Trudeau, and they're saying, hey man, we want you to resign as the party leader. You're bringing way too much negative press. You are not fit for this position anymore. And if Justin Trudeau's narcissism and ego continues to overpower his ability to step aside for the greater good, for the betterment of this country, and the Liberal Party's reputation, what little amount is actually left, then he's going to absolutely destroy that party and cause more chaos here in Canada than we've ever seen before. I mean, with the recent Hamas leader that just died, got blown up in like an Israeli airstrike, you're going to see an uptick, very likely, in the Palestinian protests, but more so the aggression that comes with that, just like we saw in Ottawa outside of Justin Trudeau's office, where you had the mob of Saruman protesters or Saruman sympathizers or whatever the hell the terrorist group is called these days, right? Saru something. Right, where they jumped on or they were smacking the front of Trudeau's motorcade and blocking it, and then the RCMP, like a bunch of wusses, right? They retreated. Right, I'm not suggesting that they drive through the crowd. Absolutely not. Like, none of us want to see that. That's horrible. But don't retreat, man. You're surrounded by other cops. Like, get them on the sidewalk for a peaceful protest. What are you doing? That's embarrassing to our national security. It's setting the precedent that, so you could bully the police, and apparently they're going to cave in. So I truly think that you're going to see, unfortunately, a rise of violence, a rise of aggression in this country. Not by you, not by me. Well, I hope not by you. I certainly am not planning on any of this, but probably by the pro-Palestinian Saruman group of people. I don't even know what the hell it's called these days. I feel like I'm wrong, but I don't know where in that term I'm wrong, but correct me down in the comments. I'm probably going to get roasted for saying the wrong thing, but my bad. Nonetheless, we all know what I'm trying to say. I think that Trudeau does need to step down at some point. And so I'm feeling the squeeze, folks. I'm feeling the squeeze. The difference between now and any other point, any other time where they've done a shuffle is you have a large amount of Liberal MPs are saying, all right, enough is enough. We got to do something, or we're not going to do this anymore. So either a good amount, like a third or even half of the Liberal cabinet is just going to get up and leave and quit and say, we're not running for re-election. In fact, we're not even working anymore. We quit today. That's a possibility that hasn't really been mentioned, but that's how bad the tensions are within the Liberal cabinet. And so, I mean, the other option is Trudeau just feels that squeeze and he steps down. But I don't know if that's even possible because he's so egotistical. He's convinced himself that he has the key to this puzzle that Canada so desperately needs in his mind, right? It's full-blown narcissism.
Or your thoughts on kind of what it looks like, I guess, from the outside, that you've got all this reporting about the possibility of caucus pushing you out. Sean Casey going on the record this week, a sitting MP planning to run in the next election, saying you should leave. And now 4 ministers saying, okay, of course they're going to say for their own reasons, most of them, but that they are just choosing not to seek re-election either. Like, what is the bigger picture?
I think the bigger picture is that people are quietly walking away. And there seems to be a small but growing number of MPs that are willing to confront the Prime Minister directly on his leadership. But I think there's a much larger group of people who will just quietly fade into the background here. And I think that's sort of what you're seeing. Now, I don't think these particular ministers leaving have a huge amount of national importance. People would have to know who they are to care that they're leaving. And I don't think very many Canadians, even folks like myself who follow politics pretty closely, have anything but passing familiarity of who the 4 who left today are. But some of the others who have left.
That's a pretty gnarly roast. Like, that is a vicious backhand. We don't even really know who you are, and so you're not really going to be missed. And I absolutely agree, right? Like, I really, really agree with that. But the funniest part about this is it's not, at this point, it's not just the nobodies of the Liberal Party, right? I'm sorry to say, to if any of these people are watching somehow or sent to them by people that know them, right? Like, you may be important within your family and group of friends, but to the world, to Canada, to politics in general in this country, you're not. Like, we don't even know your names, and it sounds really bad, but that's the harsh reality of it. But I think that is almost, as Joey Tribbiani likes to say, a moo point, a cow's opinion, not a moot point, but a moo point, that it's not just the backbenchers. It's not just the nobodies. You have like Anthony Housefather, who's been like super loyal and trusted to Justin Trudeau for a very, very, very long time. And he's at his wit's end. And so is Marco Mendicino. And as we all saw, Marco Mendicino is not a backbencher. He's put in the back now to, maybe let some of that heat slowly die off. Maybe he is one of those 11 MPs. I don't really know. He used to be a pretty big guy. Now he's lost a tremendous amount of weight. That's probably attributed to stress, right? And anxiety from maybe illegal and definitely corrupt activities as a sitting federal MP. But nonetheless, you actually have some name brand people within the Liberal cabinet that are also willing to step forward and call out Justin Trudeau and publicly shame him and disavow any support that they would potentially have or have once had towards Trudeau. So it's not just the nobodies. There also are some somebodies. But again, like, no matter how you look at it, it's a big hassle within the Liberal cabinet to patch this up.
Particularly Rodriguez and Seamus O'Regan are big names, and potential leaders and past leaders of importance within the Liberal Party as a whole. So, look, I think it's bad news. I think you can expect to see more bad news like this. I was chuckling at Brian's point because I think he's bang on. Nothing brings caucus in alignment like the potential of a shuffle. Everyone gets on their best behavior. But I think he's also right that and Marika as well, that as soon as that is gone, anyone who wasn't selected becomes even more grumpy than they were before. I've never seen a caucus member who isn't in cabinet who doesn't think that the government as a whole would be doing so much better if only they were named to cabinet. It's a universal.
Tom, your thoughts on
that's brutal.
Again, like the bigger picture here, the impression that this leaves. I take Corey's point about not everyone knowing, or being super familiar with who these individuals are, but they had been around for a long time, and it comes just it's the timing of it, I think, that certainly maybe amplifies the impact.
Yeah, and to Marika's point, I couldn't agree more. This is clearly orchestrated, and it's orchestrated to put a little bit more chaff into the air to try to distract the radar. And since the weekend, I'm not saying that what happened between Canada and India didn't have to happen or that India didn't do anything wrong. But of course, the timing of that announcement on the Monday of a long weekend was clearly intended to distract. The outburst yesterday about Poilievre and why doesn't he come and look at the secret documents. I want to be able to warn and arm the Conservatives. That's called going over the top. And now this. So you do have a coordinated effort to take out the bad news. But as everyone has just said very correctly, I've been a party leader. I can talk to that. Yes, of course. If you say that there's going to be some important assignments going out and you've got some people leaving, you're going to try to get people on their best behavior. I don't think it's going to change a thing. I think that there are 20 or 25 people who had the guts to sign a piece of paper. They'll be going to the microphones, to use the term, which is the correct one, in a caucus. And the other thing, of course, that we're seeing is that somebody of the caliber of Sean Casey, who for reasons that have never been totally clear, was left out of caucus. Has left out of cabinet. He's still in caucus. But, this guy went to the microphones himself this week publicly, called for his leader to step down. And by the way, did it in perfect French. People tended not to know that this MP from Prince Edward Island speaks absolutely fluent French and was on French and English TV saying, look, his time's up. So I think that all of that is a critical mass of information that Trudeau and the people around him should be processing in the right way. Are they oblivious to it? I'm not convinced they're oblivious to it. I think that they know that the writing's on the wall, but Trudeau has a couple of options. The main one, of course, is prorogation. A lot of people have talked about that. The other one, I know it sounds over the top, but
they've already said it's not on the table.
He has the absolute right constitutionally to walk across the lawn from Rideau Cottage, where he is, to Rideau Hall, where Mary Simon is, and ask for an election writ. I don't think he'd do that. That would be suicidal right now, and there's nothing in place. But it's his nuclear option, to put it that way.
I do think that is a likely option as well. I think that is something that we may very well see, depending how many MPs actually do get together and start to kind of rise up to the abuser of 41 plus million people. And that, of course, is Justin Trudeau. So we're just going to have to wait and see. I hate to end it on that note, but we are just going to have to wait and see how this does unravel itself in the coming days, especially early next week. But I have a feeling something is pretty substantial is going to happen later today. I mean, usually Fridays when they're in Parliament, where they're actually there doing their job, usually last minute on Fridays, the Liberals sneak something in that's like pretty big, and it barely hits the media in time for, people have dinner and all that. And then Saturday morning, there's something to wake up to, but we're going to have to wait and see later today. So make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure you turn that little bell notification on so you can be notified of upcoming videos. I think when you click and tap it, just make sure it's on select all or personalized if you do want it personalized. But nonetheless, I'd love to know your thoughts and comments about any of the topics that were covered down below, and I will see you all in a later video today. Bye for now.